My brother-in-law cruelly banned her from using the family car, but when he found out who really owned it, his world crumbled. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and please do not forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved ones. My sister Emily married Derek 6 years ago, and from the outside, it looked like they had it all. 2 kids, a decent house in the suburbs, and a reliable car in the driveway. But behind closed doors, Derek ran the household like a petty dictator. Emily is smart, kind, and strong in quiet ways. But Derek took full advantage of that. He controlled every little part of her life, what time she could go out, what she spent money on, and especially the car. That damn car became a symbol of his control. It was a silver Toyota SUV, nothing flashy, but practical and dependable, the kind of vehicle a growing family needs. Derek constantly reminded her that he paid for it, he maintained it, and he decided who could use it. He told her she didn't earn it and didn't deserve to drive it unless it was to take the kids to school or grab groceries. That was it. No visits to friends, no solo outings. If she needed it for anything else, she had to ask. And even then, the answer was usually no. He'd hold the keys like they were gold bars. If she was late returning or didn't tell him exactly where she was going, he'd take them away for days. Once, she had to miss a friend's baby shower because Derek claimed she'd wasted gas the day before by taking a longer route home. He wasn't just controlling, he was degrading. He'd say things like, "You wouldn't even know how to maintain it," or "You're lucky I let you drive at all," like he was doing her a favor by allowing her to drive the family car she used to run his errands. It got worse at family gatherings. At one barbecue, in front of our relatives, he made a show of mocking her for scratching the back bumper, something that had happened months before. He laughed, called her clumsy and irresponsible, and even joked that he should install a camera to track her driving because, clearly, she can't handle a simple trip to the store. Everyone awkwardly chuckled, but Emily stood there frozen, like she'd heard it 100 times before. I didn't laugh. I watched her face as she tried to swallow the embarrassment. Her hands were clenched, her smile fake, and she stayed quiet. Not because she agreed with him, but because that's what her life had become. Walking on eggshells, putting on a brave face, and getting humiliated by the man who was supposed to support her, and all over a car. The way Derek acted, you'd think it was some luxury sports car he worked overtime to afford. But what really got me, what pushed me from irritated to furious, was how proud he was of controlling her with it. It wasn't about the vehicle, it was about power. Every time he tossed the keys at her or yanked them away, it was like he was reminding her she had nothing without him. It made my blood boil, but Emily always waved it off when I brought it up. "It's fine," she'd say. "He's just particular." Or, "He's under a lot of stress." Classic signs of someone conditioned to excuse mistreatment. But then one night, after another argument about Derek not letting her take the car to pick up a birthday gift for our mum, Emily called me in tears. Not loud sobs, but the quiet, exhausted kind. The kind that says, "I can't do this anymore." We talked for a long time, and that's when she told me something Derek clearly didn't know. The car wasn't his. It was never his. Turns out before our dad passed, he bought that SUV outright and gifted it to Emily. It was in her name. Title, registration, insurance, everything. Derek just assumed it was his because it was the family car and because Emily never corrected him. She let him believe the lie, maybe because it was easier than dealing with the fallout. I asked her why she never used that against him. She shrugged. What would it have changed? He still acts like he owns me. Right then, I knew this wasn't just about a car anymore. This was about control, power, and the silent damage it causes. Derek thought he held all the cards, that Emily had no independence, no power, and no voice. But the truth was sitting in her glove compartment the whole time. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind where everyone gathered at our parents' house. The backyard smelled of grilled meat, the kids ran barefoot through the grass, and adults lounged around with drinks, catching up. Emily arrived with Derek, carrying a salad, and trying to manage their 2 little ones while he scrolled through his phone. It was like she didn't exist to him unless he needed something, nothing new. They sat near the patio, Derek sipping a beer, feet up on a cooler like he owned the place. He talked loud, laughed louder, and made sure everyone knew he had opinions about everything. As usual, Emily hovered quietly near the food table or followed the kids around, careful not to draw attention to herself. It was working until the conversation turned to cars. Someone mentioned a recent fender bender, and Derek jumped in, like he'd been waiting for the cue. He leaned back, and in front of at least a dozen people, pointed at Emily and said, "Speaking of bad drivers, this one here scratched the back bumper a few months ago. Can't trust her with anything." There was laughter. Not loud, just that awkward kind that people give when they're not sure if it's a joke. Emily looked up, startled, like she hadn't expected him to bring it up, especially not there. He wasn't finished. "Seriously, I should put training wheels on the SUV. She's lucky I even let her drive after that stunt." Then with a chuckle, "I swear, I'm the only reason that car isn't in a ditch somewhere." No one laughed that time, just a few uncomfortable smiles. Emily tried to smile too, but her eyes gave her away. She looked like someone trying not to break. I stood there, plate in hand, watching her shrink into herself. I wanted to say something. I wanted to walk over and tell him to shut his mouth, but I didn't. Not yet. I just watched, and I memorized the moment. Her hunched shoulders, the way her hands twisted the hem of her dress, the forced laugh that barely left her throat. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She just stood there, while the man she married tried to humiliate her like it was funny. Afterward, she disappeared inside to help clean up. I followed her and asked if she was okay. She nodded, but her eyes were red. "It's fine," she said. "He gets carried away." I knew better. That wasn't someone getting carried away. That was someone using shame like a weapon. That was someone so sure of his grip on her that he felt comfortable tearing her down in front of her family. Derek stayed outside, bragging to our uncle about refinancing the house and how he was handling everything now. He talked about hard work, about being the man of the house, about sacrifice. Meanwhile, the woman who raised his kids and kept his life together was drying dishes and hiding her tears in our parents' kitchen. I helped her finish the cleanup and didn't push her to talk more. I knew the look in her eyes, not defeat, something else, something closer to quiet calculation. Later that evening, just before they left, he tossed her the keys like he was doing her a favor. She caught them without a word and walked to the car alone. He stayed behind for a few more minutes, talking about football with my cousins like nothing had happened. When I watched her drive away, something in me shifted. I couldn't forget the way he spoke about her, not just to her, but about her, like she was an accessory, like the car, like the keys, like her voice didn't matter. And I realized he truly believed it. He genuinely thought she owed him everything. That barbecue was supposed to be a simple family get-together, but it became the moment I stopped seeing Derek as an annoying jerk and started seeing him for what he really was, a man so obsessed with control that he didn't care who he broke to keep it. And while I stayed silent that day, it was only because I knew silence could be powerful. Sometimes you don't confront someone in the middle of their show. Sometimes you wait. You let them talk. You let them think they've won, because the fall always hits harder when it comes out of nowhere. And his was coming. A few days after the barbecue, I dropped by Emily's place under the excuse of returning a dish from the party. She looked tired, not just physically, but in that deep, worn-down way that builds over years. The kids were upstairs, and Derek wasn't home yet, so I asked her if she was okay. At first, she gave me the usual nod, brushing it off, but I didn't move. I just looked at her. After a pause, she sat down at the kitchen table and said, "It's getting harder." She didn't cry. She wasn't angry. She was just done. We talked for a while, quietly, about little things. How the kids were doing, how she hadn't had time for herself in months. Then I brought up the barbecue. She flinched a little, but didn't avoid it. "He thinks it's funny," she said. "That kind of thing. It's normal for him now." I asked her why she let him talk to her like that, why she didn't say anything. She stared at her hands, then looked up and said, "Because he thinks he owns everything, including me." I didn't know what to say to that. Then she added, "But he doesn't, not everything." I asked her what she meant. She hesitated, then stood and pulled a drawer open near the fridge. From the back, under some papers, she took out a file folder. She slid it across the table and said, "That car he always talks about, the one he says I don't deserve to drive?" I opened the folder. Inside were the original purchase document, the title, and registration. Every line with her name, not his. The car had been a gift from our dad, just months before he passed away. Brand new, paid in full, with the title issued directly to Emily. Derek had never checked. He never asked. He'd just assumed it was his because it was parked in the driveway and because Emily never challenged him. When they moved in together, he started using it like it belonged to him, told her when she could drive it, when she couldn't, what routes to take, racked up tickets in her name, bragged about how he provided it. But in reality, he had no legal tie to that vehicle at all. Emily told me she kept the documents hidden because she didn't want to make things worse. If he knew, she said, he'd find a way to spin it, say I was lying, say I forged it, or worse. She wasn't being dramatic. I could see how carefully she measured every word around him. I asked her if she wanted to do something with the information. Her answer surprised me. I don't know yet, but I want to remember that it's mine, that not everything is his. We sat in silence for a bit. I could feel her weighing it in her mind, the risks, the consequences, the tiny opening of possibility that maybe she wasn't as powerless as he made her feel. She looked different in that moment, not angry, not broken, focused. I left shortly after, but I couldn't stop thinking about the envelope, about how many years he had spent talking down to her over something he didn't even own. All that control built on nothing but assumptions and arrogance. And Emily, even in her silence, had kept that truth close, like a weapon, waiting. She didn't say it outright, but I could see it starting. A shift, the quiet gathering of strength. She hadn't told anyone else, not her friends, not even our mum, just me, because she knew I'd understand what it meant. Not just legally, but symbolically. It was hers, her name, her title, her proof that he wasn't everything he claimed to be. It was only a car, sure, but it was also the start of something bigger, a crack in the wall he built around her. And now, that crack was growing. After seeing the documents, I told Emily not to say a word to Derek. Not yet. I told her to keep everything exactly as it was. Let him keep thinking he was in control. Let him keep digging. She nodded. There was no dramatic moment, no revenge speech. Just a quiet agreement between siblings, forged in silence and patience. Derek went on like nothing had changed. He still acted like he ruled the house, still controlled the daily routine, still threw the keys at Emily like he was doing her a favor. She took them without comment, drove where he told her to, picked up groceries, dropped off the kids, followed his orders. She didn't challenge him, didn't argue, didn't let him see even the smallest shift in her tone. He thought he'd won. That's the thing about people like him. They think silence means submission. Meanwhile, Emily started saving every bit of paperwork. Traffic fines, parking tickets, maintenance receipts, all of it in her name. He didn't bother checking. When letters came in the mail with her name on the envelope and bold red stamps on the front, he tossed them aside without a second glance. Assumed they were hers to deal with. In a way, they were. Then, a few weeks later, he mentioned buying a second car. Nothing new, but newer than the one they had. He said it like he was upgrading the family, like it was a reward he was giving them. Emily just listened. He talked for hours about financing, down payments, interest rates, pretending he knew what he was doing. She nodded, agreed where needed, didn't raise questions, but she told me everything. What he didn't tell her, but she found out later, was that he'd used the car as leverage. He listed it as an asset on the financing paperwork, claimed it was his. He even wrote it down as collateral in his application, completely unaware that not a single piece of documentation connected him to it. Not one form, not one signature, just his ego. He didn't realize every mile he drove, every dollar he spent using that car, every official form he touched with its details was evidence piling up. Every month, he stacked more weight on a lie, and Emily let him. She waited, letting him wrap the rope around himself one loop at a time. I kept quiet too. It wasn't easy. There were moments I wanted to call him out. The way he talked to her in front of the kids, the way he boasted about being the provider, the subtle digs he made when no one else was listening. But I didn't. I knew his downfall would be better if it came from the one person he thought he had complete control over. One night, Emily told me he missed a payment on the new car. The dealership started calling. He ignored them. Then the tickets started stacking up again. Speeding, parking, one even for expired registration, all in her name. He blamed her, of course, said she was careless, said she should have reminded him to renew it. She didn't argue. She just filed it away. He was building his own case against himself and didn't even realize it. Every mistake, every document, every lie written in ink. He thought it was all under control, that he could handle everything because he'd always gotten away with it before. But he was standing on a foundation made of paper, and every day he added more weight. Emily played her part perfectly, calm, quiet, consistent. She didn't change her tone, didn't flinch, didn't let him see the shift. The longer he believed she was powerless, the more power she had. He never noticed the way she started tracking things. He never thought to check the name on the title, the insurance, the tickets. It didn't even cross his mind that someone might be watching closely. He was too busy feeling untouchable, too busy making plans based on things that were never his. And that was the key. People like Derek never see it coming, because they never think the people they control have any control of their own. But Emily did. Quietly, patiently, she let him build the structure of his own collapse. And when it was finally time to pull the pin, there wouldn't be any warning, just a fall. The next family gathering came about 6 weeks later. Our mother's birthday. Everyone was there. Cousins, aunts, uncles. The kind of event where Derek loved to perform, cracking jokes and bragging about how hard he worked to keep everything running at home. True to form, he arrived late, loud, and already in storytelling mode. Emily walked in behind him, calm as ever, holding a small gift bag and a folded piece of paper in her purse. We all settled into the backyard. Same setup as always. Kids playing, drinks being passed around, stories floating from every corner. Derek found his usual spot near the grill, talking about how he was in the market for a third car now. He chuckled and slapped the hood of the family SUV, like it was a faithful pet. I caught Emily's eye. She gave the faintest nod. I waited for the right moment, after dinner, when everyone was full, relaxed, and gathered around for cake and conversation. I stood up casually and said, "Hey Derek, there's a little legal issue you should probably know about before it gets worse." The shift in his face was immediate, a flash of confusion, then annoyance. "What legal issue?" Before he could say more, Emily rose to her feet and pulled the folded paper from her purse. Her voice didn't shake. "This is from my lawyer," she said, clear and steady. "It's a cease and desist. You are to stop using the vehicle registered under my name immediately." A few chuckles rang out, unsure if it was a joke, but no one laughed when she continued. "For the record, the car was a gift to me from our father. The title is in my name. Always has been. You've been driving it without legal ownership, racking up violations, using it as collateral, none of which you were authorized to do. This letter makes that formally clear. If you drive it again, you'll be reported for unauthorized use of personal property." You could hear the backyard go still, the sound of a soda can cracking open somewhere, nothing else. Derek looked like someone had pulled the ground out from under him. "You're kidding, right?" he asked, almost laughing. "This is ridiculous." I handed the title over to him. Original document, her name in bold. He held it like it was burning his hands. "That's not possible," he muttered. This is a joke," but no one else was laughing. Someone asked, "Wait, it's really not in his name?" Emily didn't answer. She didn't need to. He started sputtering something about how they were married, how it was the family car, how this was unfair, but the damage was done. He looked around and saw the shift. No one backing him, no one jumping in to defend him. Even his usual audience had turned silent. For the first time in a long time, Derek had nothing to say that could undo what was already done. Derek stood frozen, holding the title in his hand like it couldn't possibly be real. He flipped it over once, twice, hoping maybe his name had been written in invisible ink. But there it was, plain and official. Emily's name, no mention of him anywhere. He opened his mouth to argue, but Emily stayed calm, watching him the way you'd watch a fire slowly burn itself out. He tried to laugh it off. "This is petty. We're married. It's our car." I stepped in then. "Legally, it's not. And you've used it without her permission, racked up violations, and falsely listed it as collateral. That's fraud, Derek." His face went red. "You don't know what you're talking about." But by then, the title had made its rounds. Our uncle, a retired cop, nodded grimly and said, "This holds up. Your name's nowhere on it. You're screwed, son." Someone muttered, "Didn't he just say he used it for a loan?" And another replied, "That's illegal if it's not his to begin with." The whispers grew louder. Derek's voice grew thinner. Emily pulled out a second letter from her purse. "And just so you know," she said, handing it to me to read aloud, "we're submitting a full claim to separate all financial liability, every unpaid ticket, every toll violation. It's being attached to your name, Derek. I've already provided the registration, title, and lawyer's letter to the city." He went pale. "You can't do that." "She just did," I said. "And you made it easy." That's when it got worse for him. Turns out Derek's boss was at the party too. a friend of one of our cousins. He'd been sitting quietly near the back, sipping a beer, listening. When he stood up, the entire group turned. "Is that true?" he asked Derek. "You committed fraud using a car that doesn't belong to you?" Derek stammered. "It's not like that." His boss wasn't convinced. Company policy doesn't look kindly on legal issues, especially ones involving false declarations. "We'll talk Monday." Derek's shoulders sagged, his mouth hung open, but no words came. Around him, the support he was used to had vanished. Even his usual defenders looked away. The air around him had changed. No one saw him as the confident, in-control man anymore. They saw the lie, the arrogance, the fall. And Emily, she didn't flinch, not once. In the days that followed, Derek tried to salvage what little pride he had left. He called Emily non-stop at first, angry voicemails, fake apologies, then more threats when she didn't respond. She didn't answer a single one. Instead, she called her lawyer and filed for a restraining order. It was granted within the week. She had enough documentation to prove emotional abuse and financial manipulation. And after what happened at the party, the judge didn't need convincing. She also filed for legal separation. There was no long explanation or dramatic confrontation, just paperwork, quiet, efficient, and final. She wasn't interested in revenge anymore. She just wanted out, and on her own terms. The lawyer advised her to pursue damages for the financial burden he'd caused using the car fraudulently. She agreed. For the first time in years, Emily was making decisions for herself. Derek didn't take it well. He showed up at her workplace once, demanding to talk. Security escorted him out. He tried again at the kids' school, and that earned him a warning from the district. When the court paperwork for the forged loan hit him, another gift from Emily's lawyer, he finally stopped showing up in person. The dealership had already begun an internal investigation. Using a vehicle as collateral when you have zero ownership, that's fraud. And they were taking it seriously. The fallout spread fast. Derek's employer placed him on leave after his boss followed up on what he'd overheard at the party. A few days later, he was quietly let go. Not a good fit for the company image, they told him. Without the car, he had to start taking the bus or walking. Emily had already reclaimed the vehicle. She had it re-registered, changed the locks, and parked it at her sister-in-law's house for a while, just to be safe. Family gatherings shifted. At first, a few people tried to remain neutral, but that didn't last. The more they heard, the controlling behavior, the financial lies, the fact that he let Emily take the heat for all those unpaid tickets, the clearer the picture became. People stopped inviting him. No one returned his calls. Even his own cousins kept their distance. He became the story people whispered about, but no longer welcomed. Emily, on the other hand, changed in ways only those closest to her could fully appreciate. She laughed more, slept better. She even started painting again, something she hadn't done since college. She picked up extra hours at work and began saving for a place of her own. The kids noticed it too, how their mum smiled for real now, how the tension in the house had lifted. Life wasn't perfect, but it was hers again. And Derek? He was left behind, walking to job interviews, watching the life he used to control move forward without him. Derek never really saw it coming. Not because the signs weren't there, but because he never thought someone like Emily could be a threat to him. He believed control meant power. He thought silence meant weakness. And he convinced himself that just because someone doesn't speak up, they must be okay with being stepped on. But that's the thing about quiet people. They don't waste their energy on noise. They wait. They watch. And when the time is right, they strike in a way you never expect. After everything, Derek faded out of our lives like a bad memory. He moved into a small rental on the other side of town, barely making rent, still dealing with the legal mess he brought on himself. No car, no job, no support, just the echo of his own arrogance. Meanwhile, Emily found something he never gave her: peace. She built her own life with steady hands and quiet confidence. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Her strength didn't come from vengeance. It came from finally being free. People ask me sometimes if I feel bad for how it all played out. I don't, because what happened wasn't about revenge. It was about truth catching up. Derek wasn't ruined by someone else. He was undone by his own ignorance and pride. So if you ever find yourself laughing at someone who doesn't fight back, who stays quiet when pushed around, maybe think twice. The calm ones, the patient ones, they're often the ones with the most power. They're the ones keeping receipts. And sometimes, they're the legal owner of the thing you brag about most. Let this be a lesson. Never underestimate the quiet one. What do you think? Did Emily handle it the right way by staying silent and letting Derek destroy himself, or should she have confronted him earlier? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, quiet strength, sweet justice, and satisfying endings, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next one.